Technical issues. Am I right? Whoa, what's all of that? All of that was looking really good last night. And I was like, hell yeah, I'm going to have this fucking green screen. It's going to look so nice. No idea what happened to the lighting. Also, if I sound crazy blown out, it's because the gain on my mic is way higher than it should be. Because shit just wasn't working without me cranking the gain like crazy. Not only that, but I'm in a new room. I was very excited about the new room. But the Wi-Fi solution that I have, because my computer doesn't actually have Wi-Fi, it doesn't have a Wi-Fi card, and the Wi-Fi solution that I have has it has, I think I speed tested it, it has like 1 or 2 megabit down and like 14 megabit up. So I am concerned that this might just not work. I tested it last night and YouTube didn't seem to have any complaints, but Twitch did. Twitch kept yelling at me that my bitrate was too low. So we're gonna have to see. That's why I said in the announcements that Twitch might just not be possible for a little bit, unfortunately, because I really do legitimately like having Twitch there for like the people that want to engage with the content on Twitch. Like, I think that's really cool, but it might just not be viable, unfortunately. So I'm trying to see. Yeah, okay, there we go. But what's up, everybody? The solution to this is that I got a different amplifier, because the amplifier I've had has been progressively breaking over the last year. Got a new router because the router that we have sucks. I used to be hardwired in straight to the gateway. That was what my solution was in the other room. But now I have to be in this room if I'm going to be streaming like every day. I can't be like out in the living room doing it, for all those hours a day. So new gateway is coming, or not new gateway, new router from my folks. They're giving me their old one. And so that should be taken care of. Hopefully the new amp solves the gain problem. I have no idea what I'm going to do about lighting. I'm going to have to watch tutorials. But hey, like, watching tutorials to fix lighting problems is my fucking job now, which is cool. I'm so psyched. Like, even though all of this has been... Oh, yep. Okay. Currently, keyframes are not being sent often enough. Oh, stream status is poor. Oh, no. What's up, everybody? Hello. ARO, AKL, Lexi, Mustang, was playing MCM here. We're on Twitch, too. Hell yeah. We can set up Twitch with the extra time. I mean, true. Yeah, I really, really want to, like, set up Twitch really well. The main problem right now is that I need to get us back to, like, baseline capabilities that I had out there. And then I can start, like, really getting shit going extra. Hello, cool, what's up? Relatable, I'm also poor. Dude, it's really... I am in a super privileged position. Like, I have a nest egg because I made some good decisions. My parents made some good decisions. Like, there have just been... I'm in a super, super privileged position to be able to actually, like, try and pursue this full time. So it's I don't want to like ever complain about like money or financials, but now every dollar that I spend is like less time that I have to make this financially viable. Right? Because, like, I'm going to be doing this full time, trying to get it there. So, like, me and Paige, like, we have our lump sum of our savings. She has her income. And then we have like downward milestones of like, okay, like when we hit this number, like I'm probably gonna have to take on some freelance jobs, like some freelance IT shit. When we hit this number, might have to look at going part-time. If we hit this number, so we have like these like kind of like downward milestones, because originally, you know, this money was supposed to be like our savings for like a car or a down payment. But I am so lucky that I have such a supportive wife that is willing to let me try this weird, crazy idea and thing. And I'm super psyched about it. I'm so psyched. I'm nothing is going right. I was so I was being a little bit of a dramatic baby last night when nothing was going right, and like when we were having all the internet issues in the game, and Paige was like, "You need to calm down. Like you, it'll be okay. Like it'll be fine." And I was like, "Oh, I know, but I want it to go perfect." So let me know if the thing that I really need to know is on either of the streams, is like the streaming quality really bad? Is it stuttering? Are we like dropping any frames? Slobs seems to think that we're okay. Like I have like the Slobs analytics. So YouTube is going in and out of telling me that my stream quality is poor to excellent. Twitch hates my bitrate, which is fair. It sucks. But you know, we'll see. We'll see how all of it goes. I probably won't be able to do what I think I'm going to do for Critical Role. Is I'm actually going to do it from Paige's computer in the living room, and we're just going to do that like temporarily, and then I'm going to do everything else off of this machine because her computer is still hardwired into the gateway, so it'll have like good upload download. But her machine has way less monitors. She has one. So I don't think I'll be able to reliably monitor both Twitch and YouTube chat. I have thought about also, what I might just do is I might do it on Twitch and YouTube, but put a big disclaimer at the beginning saying, hey, if you type in Twitch chat, I might just not see it. Because it'll be way harder for me to actually monitor those things. Because of the lack of monitors. I'm also looking for a solution to that, like a better multi-stream thing, but good to have those plans in place. Oh yeah, like I am under no illusions that like there are so many ways that this could go. Like there's so many possibilities of like I could blow up and this could be just like a full-time thing and that could be awesome. I could totally plateau and not make an ounce more money than I'm making right now, in which case this is not viable at all. Like, and anywhere in between. So we have a lot of plans for it. I'm a bit surprised that this book club hasn't blown up yet, given the number of Sanderson fans out there. Guess it's a question of getting the word out. Yeah, I think that that's one of the things. Like before, when I was working full time, I was doing about 20 hours of streaming a week, give or take. I actually think I'm only going to go up to like 30 hours a week, maybe 35, and commit a lot of the rest of the time. Because like this, with my full-time job, I was doing like 60 hours of like, you know, work a week. So I think I'm going to like take that gap of like do streaming for 30 and then do like the back end shit for 30. So like that stuff, like work on the unseen campaign, work on the setup, the lighting, the actual like slobs arrangement, like all the technical shit. And then the other part of it is marketing. Like I'm not on TikTok in like a meaningful way anymore. I'm not putting nearly enough time into shorts. More specifically, I'm not putting a meaningful amount of time into longs, which I think is a huge gap in the channel. Like I think that cutting the book clubs down into like consumable longs, I think that like doing more just like talking head type videos where I'm not live, I don't have chat, just like little 20-minute things, could be really good. So yeah, there's so many like things that don't involve streaming that I've just not been able to pursue that would really help the channel. And I will be able to pursue those things now, like the marketing for this. And on top of all of that, I can pursue, I think, cooler ideas that I just didn't have the amount of time for yet or previously. This is the time to try that then. Yeah. It's totally the time to try it, AKL. I'm in an amazing position, and luckily, like, I think I would feel guilty about it if I had quit to do this. Like, I think that that's what, like, some people might have thought before I explained more of the details, like, to, like, friends and family. And then once I explained more of the details, they were like, oh. Because I was super not planning to quit, and I'm going to give it some time. I'm going to give it some time and some distance. But in a month or two, I want to tell you guys all about why I quit, because I'm like, ultimately, the way that everything shook out, I'm on good terms with everybody at the company. I wouldn't even say like I'm on like bad terms with the company. Like, I still think it was a good place to work. I think it could be a good place for other people to work. There were just things with my specific, like, job position. And, like, the long and short of it really is that the job position changed a lot, like, what its requirements were from the time that I was hired to the time that I quit. I worked in the same job position for 3 years, but just the type of job that it was, like, fundamentally changed between me getting hired and me quitting. And I ultimately quit because I could not do the job that they needed me to do. And for a while, I was a little salty about it because I thought that the job that they had basically changed it to was not good. Like, I thought really poorly of it. But ultimately, the more I thought about it, the more I was like, no, like, this is a valid job. This is a valid way to handle these things. But it is super not for me. Like it was causing me so much stress, so much anxiety. And I was like, this could be okay for other people, but I can't work it. So yeah. So and so now, like, and then during the last 2 weeks, even more things happened to push that job even more towards the things I didn't like about it. So I felt really good. Like, over the past 2 weeks, I felt really confident, really good about quitting. And regardless of like what I'm going to do now, whether, you know, that involves like eventually going and getting a part-time job, freelance, full-time, doing this full-time, whatever, I feel good about leaving and why I left. And I left everyone on really good terms, because the more I explained it to my coworkers and my boss, the more they understood my position, and generally agreed with me of like, okay, yeah, if you can't make that work, like, if like these are the things you don't like about the job, like, yeah, those things aren't going away. So we got to a good place on it, which is cool. Twitch has great quality. That's so sick. I can't watch a YouTube video. But for some reason, the upload is okay on this computer. It's so weird. The internet issues are so weird. Good for me on YouTube. Twitch is going to stay at 160p, but seems stable. Okay, that's not terrible. I mean, the visuals on Book Club aren't really the important part, so I'm not too concerned about that. That's good. Might need to put a colored sheet blanket over the chair for key coding. The back of the chair is a bit distracting. Is it? Okay. Yeah, like this. You know what? Pause. Let's see. I mean, this is a a dog blanket, but it'll work. Oh my gosh, yeah. I really need to. Is this stuff too distracting? I can just turn off the green screen if it's too distracting. So yeah. Let me know if the green, because I really want the green screen to work. I think could be super cool. Especially for like putting like theories and like, you know, tablet stuff on there. But if it's too distracting, let me know. And I can work on it in the back end. Okay, been typing in Twitch. You mean her vehicle? Oh man, that was so long ago. I don't remember the context. No. Probably wise to invest a lot of time on the back end, admin, advertising. Yeah, I agree, AKL. I totally agree. Sounds like your playstyle was not a good fit for the table. Yeah, pretty much, AKL. That's a good way to put it. Yeah. I was playing. I would say that they were playing more wargaming, and I was playing a little bit more narrative, you could say. Sounds like DM didn't let you multi-class. No, it was more like the yeah. I'll get into it in more specifics at a later date. Because again, I think that the specifics are good, especially if you're younger, if you're interested in getting into tech at all. There's a lot that I can tell you. Again, not like specifically like avoid this or like this is a red flag. But like talk about the things that I liked, the things that I didn't, and why. Because a lot of it was like, it ultimately came down to personal preference. And I think when people say that, it like loses, I don't know, for some reason it loses like value if you say that like something was for personal preference. But I didn't realize how strong my preferences were in some cases, and like it was affecting me so badly outside of work. It was affecting me like crazy. So yeah, it was. Yeah. Again, I'll talk. I really want to talk about it in detail, but I want to give some time, some cushioning, for some distance between me and the thing before I go off about it. I worked for a corp that changed my title and added more responsibility with no pay difference. I asked for 4 years for a 9-cent raise. I was looking for another job when I had my accident. And I think that's the thing is like that. I think that is a very classic story that some people might like assume is what I went through. And it was actually like really weirdly enough. And I think I can say this without getting too deep into it. They didn't actually want me to do more. They wanted me to do less. So like there's a really classic phrase of like do more with less. They wanted me to do less with less. Like I can very like aptly, or not aptly, like my manager never was like, you need to work all of this crazy overtime. So that's what was like the weird and kind of nuanced part of this, is that I didn't quit for a lot of the more classic like shit job reasons. And I legitimately think that someone else could have done my job and been very happy with it. But it was borderline hell for me. and it is purely because of like my personality and my preferences and my expectations going into things. That sucks, Mustang. No debate on that. But I'll go into more of that. I tried switching them around, and Twitch was fine at 7:10:2. I just need to stream other stuff besides. Got it. Okay. I could recommend you a great pricey throw from CR, but low-key spoilers for Calamity. I'm sure we got stuff around I can use. We'll be fine. Looks okay for me now. I have visual issues, but looks fine for me. Okay, cool. Sounds good. Everything is pricey. I bought the punk jacket, great quality and love it, but a bit much for denim. I mean, you're always paying for like the brand markup, right? Like that there's just a degree of that going on. Yeah. Hopefully that means they work with decent-ish companies whose subcontractors pay something in the vicinity of living wages. Yeah, that's especially the problem with fashion and with merch, is that like fast fashion is so ingrained into a lot of these companies that we don't really think about. Not to get off on that. Let's do book club. Because that is something I have a lot of opinions on, but I will get way down a well on that. It's also why I haven't like actually put out merch yet, even though you guys have seen that I have a Megaphone Man like long sleeve thing. It's because I bought it from a company to like test out the quality, and I was not happy with it, so I've never put out merch. Speaking of something else that I will be able to do now, is like actually invest time into like getting a proper merch setup, and not using like, I don't know exactly what Shopify or Teespring use, but I can't imagine it's like super ethical, given the pricing. So I don't know, but I could be wrong. I haven't done enough research. That's part of the problem. Is I haven't done enough research into any of this stuff. Well, I've done research into the issues at large, which make me have a higher standard for the companies that I want to use, and I haven't done enough research to find a good one yet. Put it in the controversial playlist alongside the AI debate. I have. Okay. I've been thinking a lot about the AI videos, right? I think for a while I was like, I'm going to make like not like a definitive, but like a super deep dive about the AI. I actually think I'm going to split it into multiple videos in like a playlist, probably in like a controversial type playlist, Infinist, because it's such an evolving issue. Like every time I've actually started to work on the video, I feel like a new thing comes out that like shakes a lot of my points and like makes me like rewrite the whole script and like talking points and whatever. So I haven't like wanted to invest a bunch of time into it. So I think I'm going to do like some shorter dives into it. But that's a whole other thing. I have the wiki open, so don't talk about spoilers since I finished the book. That's a good idea, Mustang. And I'm also not going to recap. So we will start to jump into it. Oh wait, ads are about to happen. Okay. We'll wait until ads happen on Twitch, and then we will go into the actual time. So whenever Mustang says that we're back from ads, we will start Words of Radiance. Oh gosh. I was having these crazy graphical driver issues on my computer, so I had to reset my whole computer yesterday. It's just been a weekend of technical issues. So it's yeah, I'm approaching the point where like a lot of the components in my computer are aging. But I have this tendency to, whenever I buy my own components and equipment, I have a tendency to buy things that are too good to be true, and then guess what? They end up being too good to be true. So I haven't wanted to do that again. Like my current graphics card. Okay, this is more funny, and it's illustrative of the whole thing. My current graphics card, literally, like, I was looking at the specs of it when I bought it. I bought it like 4 years ago. And I was like, this is like the equivalent. When did the 30 series come out? I think the 30 series, maybe it wasn't 4 years ago. Maybe it was 3 years ago, 2 years ago. Somewhere between 4 and 2 years ago. Whenever the 30 series of NVIDIA graphics cards had just come out, there was an AMD equivalent that like was beating most of the 30 series. It was like equivalent to like a 3080, but it was like $500 cheaper, $700 cheaper. And I was like, oh my God, it's a steal. And I was buying it like during a sale. And so I was like, oh my God, what a steal. And then like how it's too good to be true. And I got it, and it is so heavy that it nearly snapped my motherboard. And so I had to use a support, but the support blocks my other PCIe port, which is why I can't have a Wi-Fi card. It's a whole fucking thing. Anyways, I don't want to go through that again. But my computer's on its last leg, so I don't know what I'm going to do about that. This is my first club. How does this work? How this works, Lexi! Oh my God, the gain is fucking terrible. I'm so sorry about my voice. Let me see. I might be able to gain it on slobs, and it might sound better. Let's see. So I'm gonna turn it up for myself, and then one second. I just thought about this. Okay. Does this sound any different or better? I can't tell on my end. It like the level is similar, but I can't tell if it sounds better or worse in terms of like the actual audio quality. So let me know if it does. Going full lurk mode sounds good, AKL. Anyways, let me know on the audio quality. But first book club, how it works. I used to do a recap. I will no longer do a recap because it took way too long. So I'm basically just going to. I have a bunch of notes that I took during the read through, and I just go through them. It's actually it's a very simple setup and like hook and everything of like, hey, I read the book. I'm gonna go through my notes and talk about the shit that I wanted to talk about, and that's it. And you guys talk about what you want to talk about, and we just have a good old time talking about the book. So Words of Radiance Part 1. Also something that was really interesting for me while reading this. I convinced Paige to start reading through Way of Kings. So I'm also rereading Way of Kings while reading the Words of Radiance. And so before I actually go into anything, I'm going to see if Paige is listening or can hear me, or if I need to shut the door and maybe talk quieter, because I don't want her to get spoiled now. 1 second. Yelling. All right, I am closing the door, and you might get a little bit of ASMR. But yeah, we just chat about it. Got it. Yeah, exactly, Lexi. Exactly, you got it. After I finish the series, I'm definitely going to reread. There's so much I missed. Oh my god, it's so wild. Like, I mean, the most like obvious example of like, oh, like such like something that was foreshadowed so much that I just, obviously missed is like the Parshendi being the Voidbringers. Oh my god. Like it's once you know what to look for, it is foreshadowed so often, it's crazy. So that was cool. It's very interesting on reread. But okay, so the first thing that we read in Words of Radiance is the prologue to Question from Yasna's perspective. So her shadow pointing in the wrong direction. Immediately. I don't think that that's ever been narrated with Shallan, which makes me wonder, like, if it's something specific to Yasna, if it's something specific to like her order, because we don't know exactly what order Yasna was bound to, and now, I mean, fuck, she's fucking dead. So, I'm hoping that, because Yasna's spren was Ivory, right? It was the oil guy with the sword, who's shy. And I'm wondering if we're going to get to interact with Ivory anymore, but I'm thinking we probably won't, because like Syl narrated that like when she leaves Kaladin she loses herself. Pattern obviously is like coming to sentience through his bond with Shallan, so I feel like Ivory is kind of gone. No one else knew anything or knows anything really about Yasna's powers besides Shallan. So I don't know. I mean, theoretically, it's possible. Like, we end off not really, like, getting solid resolution to Yasna's death, but it's really assumed given Navani's journal entry. So, like, a classic off-screen death that, they plunge the dagger into her heart. We didn't confirm it on the body. You know what I'm saying? So, to me, the Yasna death is suspect. I think she always could come back. If she doesn't, that's very sad. I really wish she would. I have had the wonder or the theory that potentially Yasna will live on in Shadesmar. Like, she will be she probably won't be a cognitive shadow like we see in Mistborn Secret Histories, but I wonder. It seems like a reasonable way to take this, and like Yasna like basically coaches Shallan from beyond the grave, which would be wild. I could see that being a plot line. It's so tough because I feel like we're not done with Yasna. It feels like such an early time to get not to get rid of her, but like to take her out. But maybe that's the point. Is maybe like from a both in world and out of world, like from both a like Watsonian and Doylist perspective, she knows too much, right? So like she knows too much. That's why people are assassinating her within the book. But also from the writer's perspective, she knows too much about Shadesmar. She knows too much about the Spren. So she's got to go. I don't know. It's weird. But all of that to say, her shadow pointing the other direction makes me think of the black sphere that Gavilar gives Szeth in Way of Kings, and Szeth hides in Yakaved. Because there's this like it could just be that it's her spren, and maybe she's bound to like shadow spren or something. Maybe that's the oil guy. I don't know. But specifically the shadows with lamps, it reminds me of the black sphere. So I'm not sure about that. It's something I'm gonna keep thinking about because it wasn't specifically resolved, I don't think. And I don't think we've seen the end of Yasna. I don't know. So Liss, big assassin, girly, former owner of Szeth, which is weird. Like it's one of those things where Liss owning Szeth is either or like being his former owner feels like almost like a wink and a nod to the audience of like, look at this, you know, Szeth, you know Szeth. But it feels a bit too much like that. Like it almost feels like an Easter egg, but Szeth is like very much still around, and like who owns him is such a big deal that it feels more, I don't know. To me, the way it was written and presented felt like the wink and nod Easter egg, but the actual like in-world implications feel more significant than that. So I'm again, something I'm kind of keeping my eye out. A lot of the stuff in the prologue is like, oh shit, to keep your eye out for, you know. And so I'm also trying to like wrap my head around Shadesmar, because for a while during this book I thought that Shadesmar was going to be separate from the cognitive realm, which if you have only read Stormlight you would have no reason to know the term cognitive realm. But if you've read Mistborn, you would. And it is very different. Like, Shadesmar, as, like, the way that it is narrated as, like, looking and behaving is very different from the cognitive realm that is described in Secret Histories. So, but, to a certain degree, that's interesting and makes a bit of sense. I don't know, it's weird. Like the glass beads kind of sound like atoms, and the spren are spiritual representation, but they're not spiritual. Sorry. Because there is also the spiritual realm, which is totally different. So spren are the like intellectual representations, like the thought experiment representations of like atoms and molecules, or like collections of them. And what I thought was interesting about that is that it sort of goes back to what Cal's mom said about like limbs having their own spren. Like, she was like talking about how like, yeah, you have like an arm spren, but that people are not spren, and like you don't have a spren as like you. So it's interesting because it's like there's like the way that Yasna describes is there's like three planes. There's the material, the intellectual, and the spiritual, I think, if I remember right. And it sounds like the and the spren are entirely within the cognitive, within the intellectual realm, which is very interesting. The different realms were something completely new to me, but as someone who has had waking dreams, I kind of understood the concept. It's very weird. It's definitely like there's a big implication that the cognitive realm is shaped by the people of the planet. Very Gestalt consciousness esque. If you know what that is, a Gestalt consciousness is they're a big part of one of my favorite book series ever, Into the Black. I don't actually know if I would recommend Into the Black, but it has a very special place in my heart. I think if you read it, you'll have to let me know if you like it or not, because at this point, I'm way too biased against it to ever not like it. But yeah, the Gestalt consciousness, if you don't know, is kind of this idea that a collection of sentient minds being in proximity to each other can basically develop its own sentience. So like it's not like, I wouldn't call it like a theory for like God, but it's a plot device that is used a lot of times in sci-fi or in fantasy, to kind of give a godlike persona or abilities, to just the collective consciousness of the planet. And that's very much what the cognitive realm seems to be. It seems to be almost shaped by the inhabitants of the planet. And I'm going back to, right, at the end of the last book, we had the Almighty, which is extra interesting now because Yasna actually, I talk about that in a later chapter. When Yasna says that the Almighty might just be a powerful spren, I was like, interesting. Like I was like, okay. So we'll talk about that later, but I'm very interested in that concept specifically because it might change what I even thought the Almighty was. But yeah, having studied psychology and looking into mind healing, I can see how we can think what we think can create other concept spren that will grow as we understand the concept more. Well, and it definitely like it goes back to, there's a interlude, I think between parts 3 and 4 of Way of Kings, where there's the spren collector that travels to that city where there's like a unique spren that like takes all of the faces of the people, you know, and that sounds like very Gestalt consciousnessy, of like it's like this conglomerate of the people of the city that like form this spren. And talking about how like certain regions do or like have unique types of spren. So like the spren collector went to like a certain place and like that place had drunkenness spren. And this is something else that I thought was interesting, especially when considering the Thunder class, is that the Great Shells are narrated in Way of Kings. The Chasm Fiends are narrated to have unique spren. Which so it's, to me, I'm like, oh, are the Chasm Fiends Thunder class? I don't know. We'll talk about that later. Because yeah, the Great Shells having unique spren is very interesting to me. The Axis spren collector's shadow went the wrong way too. Really? It did? Oh, that's very interesting. I didn't remember that at all. Huh. That's interesting. Okay. I mean, if spren can also be ideas. So if many people believe in the Almighty and have the same ideas of the Almighty, why couldn't it just be a very powerful spren? That's kind of where I'm going with it, because like that's not how shards work. If you've read any of the other Cosmere books, that's not like shards are not like Gestalt consciousness constructs, right? Like I won't get too far into like Mistborn spoilers, but like that's not, at least that's not to our understanding, or my understanding at least, how a shard works. But that does appear to be how spren work, which is a very interesting difference. And it's like, oh man, because I originally thought that the Almighty was a shard, and I don't know if he is anymore, or if he was, I should say. And this goes into like Yasna talking about how she was like, I don't know how Spren could die, but I think a lot of them did. Right? She narrates how like she thinks that a lot of them died at one point. It very much could be like, so then that would explain a little bit more the concept of like the Almighty's death. But anyways, kind of how Greek Roman gods got power. The more people believed in them, the more power they had. Yeah. Very similar concept. Yeah. So yeah. Also, I did think it was a little I don't want to say convenient, but it was a little interesting that Yasna like immediately figured Shadesmar out, like almost instantly. Which like is an amount of characterization of just like how dope and smart and and clever Yasna is. It felt a little over the top for me. But you know, it's a type of characterization. It didn't really pull me out of it. And I think Shadesmar being called the Kingdom of the Spren is interesting, and I go back to later. Then there was a little segment in the prologue that hasn't really been addressed yet that I'm interested in. Of someone named Ash is getting worse. They're all getting worse. What have we done? That creature carries my lord's own blade. We shouldn't have let him keep it. At my first instinct, they're Azish, which Azish is also where the Pure Lake is. And it seems they know about the feast issues. Like they're running. It seems like they're getting out of the feast before the Parshendi murder anyone. So there's a lot of things that could be happening here. The fact that they're Azish makes me think back to the people that were hunting Hoyd, who is also Wit, on the Pure Lake. They're talking about like that creature carries my lord's own blade. My instant instinct is that they're talking about Zeth, but that doesn't really seem to track. My other instinct is that these could potentially be ghost bloods, and they're actually referring to Shallan? Like, because, like, Shallan's dad was in the Ghost Bloods, right? Or he was affiliated in some way. And my assumption is that when Shallan killed her dad dropped a shard blade and she picked it up and now it's hers, right? But it's possible that it's something different than that. Or just possible that, like, the Ghost Bloods gave Shallan's dad the shard blade, and then, again, when she killed him, she took it. But they're calling her, like, a creature? Maybe they've got some fucking issue with soulcasters? I don't know. I don't feel like I have exactly enough to know, because my only two, I definitely don't think they're talking about, like, Dalinar or Adolin, right? I don't think they're talking about any, like, normal shard bearer. Like, they have to be talking about Zeth, Shallan, or someone we just haven't been introduced to yet. Maybe a Parshendi. Maybe. Because we know that there are Parshendi shard bearers, and I believe it was addressed in the first book. I don't remember the details around how they address it, but I believe they talk about how Parshendi didn't have shard blades before. Like when Gavilar and Dalinar first discovered them, that they didn't have shard blades, shard bearers, but now we know that they do. So it's also potential that that these Azish people, or the people that we're hearing here, are struck some sort of bargain with the Parshendi to give them shard blades, and that's why they're calling them creatures, whatever. Those are my three theories. Is that the people that are but these people made some sort of deal, right? Ash is getting worse. They're all getting worse. What we've done is wrong. Like, it sounds like they struck some sort of bargain, which makes me think that it's something. It's the Parshendi. Like that's the most confident, or that's the one that I'm thinking the most, is that they struck some sort of bargain with the Parshendi. Maybe got some fucking Parshendi blood or something, so that they would be like inoculated when the Everstorm comes and all the Parshendi go insane. Like maybe they got like fucking Parshendi blood injected into them so that the Parshendi won't go after them. But maybe it's like transforming them into Parsh people. I don't know. That was weird. It really stuck out to me, especially because it was never really addressed other than that. But, stuff like that happens all the time. Also, something that I thought was interesting, and I think potentially just a degree of missed canon, like a degree of like things that just weren't kept consistent, is that Yasna knows that Szeth is a Shin man. Like she very clearly narrates like the assassin in white Shin man, and like, but in Way of Kings they think that the assassin was a woman because she wrote the message. So that was, I don't know if that was supposed to be like implying that just no one believes Yasna about her account. What exactly was going on there? Maybe there's another degree of canon that I'm missing that like kind of collates, or that kind of reconciles the two. But that seemed to be just a little bit of a miss. I don't know. The Parshendi. So they just straight up are like, we take responsibility. We hired the assassin. We killed your father. It was Gegna, Clade, and Vernali. They were part of the members of the Parshendi ruling council because your father was about to do something very dangerous. Very interesting. No, like it makes me wonder what he was doing with the Black Sphere. And I feel like part of my theory, right? It's weird because there's a lot of things to kind of reconcile here that we just don't know. Because like we don't know if the Parshendi want to be Voidbringers again. Like we don't know if that's like something that like they're into or if that's going to be against their will. We don't know what real side Gavilar was on. Right? Like we know, did Gavilar start reading Way of Kings before the meeting of the Parshendi? I don't think it's clear. I think it was after. Which then implies, right, if he's reading Way of Kings, it implies that Gavilar was on like the, heraldic anti-Voidbringer side. Which then, if the Parshendi kill him, implies that at least the Parshendi ruling council want to be Voidbringers again? Maybe? I don't know. It's weird, though. And it's especially weird because, like, the fact that the Parshendi, like, got Szeth to do it, right? But there's also a thematic, like, line there of, like, the Assassin in White. Like, the Assassin in White is killing all of these rulers of state for Taravangian. And Taravangian, we don't exactly know what's up. It seems like he is like a means to an end, right? Taravangian is sort of the inversion of Journey before Destination. He is destination before journey. He is doing this fucked shit in order to like serve the greater good, right? And so it is unclear to me. It's unclear to me exactly where a lot of the kind of tertiary factions stand. Like, what do the Ghost Bloods stand for? Are they Voidbringer? Are they, heralds? Right? Are they all? I think we can maybe safely determined that it's kind of Almighty versus Odium. But it's not clear where the Ghostblood stand. It's sort of clear where Taravangian stands, but it's not ultimately clear where Gavilar stood. Right? And it seems as though reading the Way of Kings is maybe what starts triggering the visions. Like, we don't know if Gavilar started having the visions, but we do know that very shortly after Kaladin embraced his identity and like embraced the words, right, the tenets, he had a vision. He didn't have it as strong as Dalinar. So it's and he doesn't have it like every time, it seems like. But it does seem like reading the Way of Kings is maybe what triggers the people to start having the visions. And the visions are from the Almighty. They say to unite them, the Everstorm comes. So we can kind of assume that Gavilar is like on the Almighty heraldic side. But what was he going to do? That's the real question, because the Parshendi say he was about to do something very dangerous. Which was what? And we know that the Everstorm was cut. Like, Gavilar did not trigger the Everstorm, right? Gavilar did not trigger any sort of desolation or anything. So that couldn't be what the Parshendi are referring to, because Jasnah bound with Ivory like that night, right? And we also know that Szeth has been doing lashings and whatever. He was named Truthless, I think, a year prior to the events of Gavilar's murder, which I think implies, at this point, I think I can pretty safely assume that means he bound with a spren, which is weird, because one of the interludes in Way of Kings very explicitly says there are no spren in Shinovar. So does what I'm taking that to mean now? I think spren must be everywhere. Like, that would imply that like the Shin don't think, which is weird. So what I'm actually thinking is going on is that there are spren in Shinovar. It's just that they don't appear to anyone from outside of Shinovar. And maybe they are. I'm thinking maybe the reason that he is considered truthless is because it seems like the Shin are a little bit more aware of the non-fucked with history, like of the world and of things. And so I think that Szeth bound. This is my theory. I think that Szeth bound with one of the Void Spren, because Jasnah breaks the Spren into like 3 categories. She breaks them into like, I think it was like emotional spren, natural spren, and void spren. And I believe that the cryptics are void spren and the honor spren are emotional spren. I believe. I kind of want to go and re-listen to when like Jasnah's lore dumping about the spren, because it seems like a lot of things that are important. But she mentions the void spren. And the fact that the spren, it seems like, have had conflict leads me to believe that there are some spren that are on the side of the Almighty, and there are some spren that are on the side of Voidbringers. Like, I think the cryptics, Shallan's spren, and whatever spren Jasnah was bound to. And so I'm wondering if that is why Szeth was ultimately named Truthless, is because he bound to some sort of spren. Although it seems like with his lashings, it would have been like a gravitation spren or something. It doesn't seem like it would have been a void spren. It seems like it would have been the natural spren. Like, that makes sense for lashings to me. But also, it's weird, right? Because I know I'm going all over the place, but it seems like Jasnah said that each type of spren has 2 things that they do. So it seems like, because she was talking about how like they share their spren. Jasnah has some sort of spren, and Shallan has the cryptics. and they share soul casting, those two types of spren, but then they have different things out here. And so I'm thinking that Zeth spren and Honor spren both share like the gravitation aspect, right? They share the lashings. But then there will be a secondary order that is different between Zeth's spren and Syl, who's an Honor spren. I think. I don't know. It's very, very weird. Especially, again, because in the... Did you read the Ars Arcanum? No, I did not. Austin. Which now I kind of want to. Like, I started listening to it, and then I was like, I don't feel like I have enough context to, like, appreciate or understand or, like, basically intake any of this knowledge. I honestly feel like now, after this part 1, I actually have a lot more capability to intake that knowledge and, like, actually categorize it. So I might reread it after this. Because I think now I would get it more. And it would probably answer some of my questions, actually. It would actually probably straight up tell me, because if I play on that theory, right? If I play on that theory of, like, what Jasna said about, like, each spren has two things, you know, her and Shallan's share soul casting, and they have different things out here. If I also know Kaladin's is an Honor spren, it has lashings. Zeth's also has lashings, but is maybe different. Ars Arcana might tell me what kind of thing Zeth's is. Might just straight up tell me. So that'd be interesting. That'd be interesting to go and look at. But anyways, what is Gavilar doing? The only thing I can imagine is that the Parshendi are being not weird about it, but that I don't know what they mean when they say that he was going to do something dangerous. It's so weird, especially because the Parshendi seem honorable, right? Like, which it seems counter to the idea that they want to be Voidbringers, that they want to, like, serve Odium. With the way that they interact. Oh my god, that scared the shit out of me. With, like, the way that they want to they seem like a very, like, honorable, like, the way that they interacted with Dalinar, and, like, the way that they're described engaging in war seems almost the opposite of Odium. But then why would they want to stop Gavilar? There's so many floating questions of, like, who's on whose side, who is I feel like someone is getting tricked, right? Dalinar was really worried in Way of Kings about the visions potentially not being from the Almighty, right? The visions potentially, like, being from an enemy that is there to, like, trick him, right? And now he has kind of discarded that theory, and I tend to agree with him. I think that the visions are probably to be trusted, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the people that follow the visions are. Like, clearly Taravangian is a little fucked. Even maybe if he is thinking that he's doing the greater good, it's hard to tell if he is. There are obviously other forces at work with the Ghost Bloods and Hoyd. I don't know. A lot of open questions, and I feel like it is not as simple as Odium versus Almighty. I feel like there are other forces at work here that are maybe forces that are just, like, wanting to end the cycle, forces that want to extend the cycle and, like, not have either side win, kind of arms dealer-esque. I don't know. Let's transition into 1. So, all things have 3 components: soul, body, and mind. So, 3 realms, as far as we can tell. And Jasna talks about how Shallan's extra senses help her create the art, which sounds similar to what she talks about later with, like, the other part of her spren, right? I'll start reading Stormlight Archives. It must be a sign. It must be a sign, Dom. It must be. um. I'm reading through a lot of my like number one is stuff we've already talked about. I did think it was interesting. Some spren are as clever as humans and create cities, and others are like fish that just swim in the currents. Now, Yasna says something about the death of the spren and why people can't soulcast and lashings went away. We broke an oath and offended them greatly. Talking about the spren. I feel like this either one, it could just be the original oath pact, right? When the Knights Radiant, or it could be when the Knights Radiant turned away, or both. Like they are potentially the same thing, because the original heralds seemed to think that one of them, Tolinol, could uphold the oath pact by himself. But could he? And is that potentially why he founded the Knights Radiant, was to keep up the oath pact in his stead? And then when the Knights Radiant turned away from humanity, the real thing that meant was breaking the oath pact and betraying the spren. I don't know what that means, but I feel like there's something there. I'm most confident that it is related to the Knights Radiant turning away. I'm just not sure how that relates to the original oath pact, you know? I don't know. It would also, in turn, potentially mean that Shadesmar is the place that they go in between desolations, but I feel like that's probably the spiritual realm. I feel like the heralds were going to the spiritual realm, and we don't really know a lot of details about it. Yeah, I don't know. It also seems like the Ghost Bloods, is a note I took, are potentially related to the spren, perhaps servants or worshippers. It seems like they might have, because like Yasna talks about how the cryptics were the ones pushing Shallan to Yasna. And so that, in turn, makes me think that potentially the Ghost Bloods are servants or worshippers or something of the cryptics. And so the cryptics constructed this scenario to get Shallan to Yasna and used their servants, the Ghost Bloods. Which would then maybe imply that the Ghost Bloods are on the side of the Voidbringers, because I feel like the cryptics are as well. I'm not entirely sure about that. I'm making a big like logical leap based on the fact that I think the cryptics are what Yasna called Void Spren. Voidbringers, Void Spren, like, and clearly the Voidbringers in Dalinar's vision, there are spren that created the Thunder class, which were very, very clearly on the side of the Voidbringers. I think. I say clearly. It seemed like the Thunder class were on the side of the Voidbringers, which would then mean that there were spren on the side of the Voidbringers. That, to me, that feels natural that it would then be Void spren that were on the side of the Voidbringers. So big, big leaps there, but that's my theory, is that the Ghost Bloods are on the side of the Voidbringers. But then that feels weird. Why are the cryptics bringing her to Yasna? Yasna's probably on the side, on like the more Herald's Almighty side, so that feels weird. I don't know. Like, it feels like people are helping people that don't make sense, and they're not helping people where it doesn't make sense, right? Like, the Parshendi killing Gavilar still doesn't feel like it works. And from what I understand of the cryptics, I don't know why they would be supporting Yasna and supporting Shallan. I don't know. It's very weird. Also, Adolin and Shallan. Huh. Got nothing else to say about that. My only real prediction is that Shallan and Renarin are actually gonna you know? I have a feeling that that's going to be a drama maybe in book 3 of, Adolin and Shallan get together, but her and Renarin are getting freaky in the sheets. I don't know. They fall in love in the background, maybe. We'll see. Very reminiscent of Gavilar and Dalinar and Navani. So maybe Adolin dies at some point, and then Shallan and Renarin get together. I don't know. It's really good, Dop. Oh yeah, it's really good. It took me a sec to get into it, but it's really good, I think. I like the idea. The original Oath of the Ten didn't break until the humans turned away from the oath. Yeah, that's kind of that feels right to me, but I don't know. Yeah. Also, in general, this arc for Shallan of her like getting confident and like gaining confidence. That's fine. That's cool. I'm glad that Shallan is gaining confidence. A confidence arc in general, I feel like makes sense for Shallan. I don't love the dressing up of it with like the nobleman or the noble person like bent to it of like ordering people around. Which I get is not what Yasna's doing, and it's not what she's encouraging. It's not what she's like encouraging Shallan to do, but there's like this weird set dressing of it that I don't love, but it's fine overall. Also, spren shaped like arrows with the cryptids. Like, eventually, so the pattern that Shallan sees, right, she eventually recreates and it turns into the spren pattern, the cryptid. And when it is first narrated, it is narrated as being like a pattern of arrows. And we've heard arrow like a ton of times. The pattern that Shallan saw was said to have been made of dozens of interlocked arrows, and I thought at first maybe arrows are just sign of the spren, but the Voidbringers fought with arrow-headed things. Hoid has arrow-like features, and rereading Way of Kings, I just realized when they first narrate Chasm Fiends, they narrate them specifically as having arrow-shaped heads. Same thing with the Thunder class, which is the thing that is making me connect potentially the Chasm Fiends and the Thunder class. I'm wondering, especially with the Chasm Fiends having unique spren that come out of them, I am wondering if the Chasm Fiends are almost naturally occurring Thunder class. I don't know. I feel like I'm onto something, but I don't have a good way to like tie it up with a bow. You know what I'm saying? It's like, oh, Chasm Fiends are Thunder class. And that means that doesn't mean much. Like, one of the reasons that I'm getting there is because like the Parshendi worship the Chasm Fiends as gods. We know that. Or at least we think that. That's what we've been told from the Alethi perspective, but the Alethi perspective is unreliable when it comes to narration and information about the Voidbringers and about the Parshendi. But the relationship between the Chasm Fiends and the Parshendi is certainly there. The Chasm Fiends seem like Thunder class. And so I don't know. It's weird. Ooh, sounds good, Dop. Hell yeah. Yeah. Catch us for the next book club. I mean, it's in 2 weeks, so you got time. But it's weird, right? It's there's clearly something there, but I can't like tie it up with a bow. I can't figure out exactly what's going on. Especially with Hoid having arrow-like features. That seems weird to me. That seems like very specifically weird. Especially because like Hoid doesn't seem evil. Hoyd doesn't seem like he's like ooh rah rah desolation. Like let's go. Sanderson leaves breadcrumbs but won't give us a destination. Yeah, very much so. And like maybe the arrow is just a sign of the cognitive realm, right? Like maybe arrows aren't specifically evil, right? Like the Thunder class have arrow features because they are of the spren, and the spren are of the cognitive realm. Like it could be as simple as that. And that is maybe a signal that like Hoyd is of the cognitive realm, which would make sense with my connection to him as Drifter from Secret Histories. If you know, you know. But I'm thinking maybe that the arrows aren't necessarily signs of the Voidbringers. That's the most neat answer I can give and prediction I can make is that arrows have kind of been I feel like they've been narrated as signs of the Voidbringers and like kind of signs of evil. But I'm thinking that's maybe not the case. I think that they are signs of either the spren, the cognitive realm, or both. Is this arrow type architecture? Yeah. Yeah. I think that's like the most neat thing I can think of. Okay. So with Kaladin, I didn't have honestly a lot of Kaladin's chapters I didn't have a ton to say on. Like they're all like very clear setup type stuff for like part 2 and beyond, which I think will be awesome. Like I'm very excited for where Kaladin's story goes, but I don't have a ton to say on it. Like I wrote kind of pretty basic notes of like having a hierarchy of lower leaders to delegate to is probably the best way to do things, but it makes me nervous. The reason that Bridge 4 is the way it is because of Kaladin. Without his direct involvement, I can see things going awry. Like they're kind of turning him into like a training general, which like I think that's part of the point. Is like maybe like a lot of like Kaladin's experience is like very direct. It is working with people, not with structures. And so I think that might be part of his arc is to zoom out and see the bigger picture. Like we kind of got a little bit of that in Way of Kings with the side carry disaster, right? The side carry disaster was him not looking at the big picture. It was him only thinking about the men in front of him. And so I think that might be a kind of larger arc for him throughout this book of he needs to stop micromanaging, he needs to stop caring about like the explicit details of everything and learn to delegate and like control like a power structure, a hierarchy, rather than individuals. That's kind of my theory for where Kaladin's gonna go. Also, I just called it. I just bigged it. It's just that clear. When they say we're still dark eyes, and then Scar says, "Not you. I saw your eyes during blank." I'm just saying. I'm just saying. I called it. The light-eyed bit is just because of the historical impact of the Radiance. Like every time Dalinar goes back, and there's like dark-eyed, leaders and generals and whatever, like the term light eyes is definitely just referring to surge binders. Just I feel so confident about this now. And he all but spelled it out, I feel like, in this chapter. Squad leader gonna squad lead? Yeah. Like I think that is the big thing, is it's like I think that he came back to himself as squad leader Kaladin in book 1, and now he's going to have to come to like General Kaladin in Words of Radiance. Also freed by Bridge 4 is so cute. I wasn't crying, but I was a little misty. During part 2. Freed by Bridge 4 was very cute. Also, okay. I have a tiny bit of a gripe, but I honestly don't know how much of a gripe it is versus like how much it's just like, huh, I wasn't thinking about it that way, you know? Of the fact that he can't get tattooed. Like, there's obviously the symbolism of it all, right? From the Doylist perspective. Like, they very clearly spell out the symbolism. But also, like, within the fiction, like Watsonian Lee, it feels a bit random. Like, it's essentially implying that, like, whenever he's holding Stormlight, that, like, his skin and organs can't have, like, foreign bodies, but, like, what does that mean? Like, is it going to, like, reject, is it going to make him, like, throw up food? Like, obviously not. So then it's like, okay, maybe it's not foreign bodies, maybe it's impurities. So maybe that's, like, part of the reason that, like, Stormlight heals and, like, gives you more energy, is because it's, like, purifying your fucking liver and kidneys and shit. But then, like, then that goes into, okay, like, if that is the way I'm supposed to understand Stormlight, is it going to be a thing of, like, Stormlight, like, sobers you up? Like, I'm trying to, like, carry this to, like, its logical conclusion, right? And, like, is that going to be a thing of, like, Kaladin, like, tries to drink and then he holds Stormlight and it, like, sobers him immediately? Or not? I don't know. Because I hesitate to say that it felt random, but it felt very, like, this is something that was very clearly done for the symbolism. And I don't want to say that, like, the consequences of it weren't thought about, but the fact that this consequence has never been narrated before, it's hard, because I also get that. It's something that probably didn't need to be narrated before. Oh, thank you for the sub, Coast Husky. Also, Mustang, I totally missed it. I just saw it on the feed. Thank you for resubscribing. I appreciate you. But it's one of those things where, like, I have a lot of, like, mixed feelings about this whole shtick of, like, it wasn't narrated or foreshadowed in any way that I could tell. But also, did it really need to be? Like, you know, a book is a finite amount of the pie, right? Everything that you include, you're increasing word count. There's a lot of decisions to make about, like, what you, like, cut and what you don't. So maybe there was something that, like, foreshadowed this whole, like, no impurities thing. And it hit the cutting room floor because it wasn't as important. I don't know. But to me, introducing it in this way feels very, like, again, it feels very Doylist. It feels very like they just wanted the symbolism of it all. Well, Stormlight heals, but how and why? Yeah, I think that's kind of the thing, DM. Is it's like, Stormlight heals. Yes. We definitely know that. That has been well established. It is the question of how and why, and I thought I understood how and why, but this tattoo ink situation, to me, doesn't feel in line with what I understood of Stormlight healing before, and it could just be that he's, you know, expanding our understanding. And so that's why I say I have mixed feelings on it, is because if there was no constraint, right? If Brando is live streaming and he can go on all the tangents he wants, I feel like this should have been foreshadowed. But I'm wondering if it even needed to be, you know? Like, I'm kind of going back and forth on my critique of, like, it felt a little weird to me, but also, like, I don't know that I would have done it different, you know, if I was him. And I'm also not the professional writer. I'm just the professional reader, I guess. Anyways, chapter 3. Okay, the hierarchy changing and modifying history, I think, is chef's kiss. I think it makes a lot of sense. I think it has been very distinctly established that history has been mucked with, and from what we understand of the hierarchy, makes perfect sense. I especially with, like, how fundamentally, like, truths were changed within such a short period of time. Like, I said it in my notes, it would be one thing if traditions had just evolved or been updated but the hierocracy is how like literal true facts and history and things were just basically erased. I thought that was cool. I thought that was a very, very, very cool, because like there's one degree of like, oh, things were misinterpreted, but it definitely seems like Roshar's history has been literally altered, and I think the hierocracy is a good plot device for how that could feasibly happen. Oh yeah, and then this is where we learn symbol heads are cryptics. Ivory is Yasna's spren. I also think it's very interesting. I have a lot on the fact that the cryptics are lie spren. Makes sense to me why like Shallan had to offer a truth to Soulcast. But Kaladin doesn't have to like offer anything to Surgebind, and it doesn't seem that Szeth has to either. And then it seems like maybe Shallan only had to offer a truth once, because later on Pattern says like, you don't need to offer anything. So but someone did bring up, I think in a comment or in the Discord, that like someone being truthless could be a sort of reference to the truth that Shallan had to give up. Like it could be a reference to the cryptics. Like if the symbol heads are lie spren, Szeth bonding to a cryptic would then have made him like truthless? Mayhaps? It still is weird to me that Szeth has never brought up the spren that he's bonded to, and does kind of call into question the whole like there are no spren in Shinovar, of like even if no one else outside could see them, and like that's the whole beat, that's the whole thing. I still in the prologue for part 1, man, and I think I was listening to it when we re-listened to it, but I don't actually remember anymore. But like Szeth narrates the spren and he seems weirded out by them, but he doesn't explicitly say that he is, so it's hard to tell. So I'm wondering if maybe they're still, again, are spren in Shinovar, but maybe not only do they not appear to outsiders, maybe they don't even appear to the Shin themselves. So there are spren you could theoretically bond to one as Szeth, but you still may not be able to see them. You may not like interact or talk with them at all, even if you're bonded to them. Maybe. Still seems weird. Still seems weird that we've never seen the spren from Szeth, because Szeth seems to like be like super down with his lashings. He considers the shard blade a curse. He's said that very directly. Hates the shard blade. Helps him murder. But he seems to be down with his lashings, which is interesting. So you would think that if he's so down with his lashings, he wouldn't like hate his spren. He wouldn't if he was aware of his bonded spren, he wouldn't be against them or anything. But we've never heard about it, which again makes me wonder if he's even aware of it. And maybe that's something that we'll get from Syl. Like if Szeth and Kaladin ever interact, like I think Syl is immediately like, she's going to see Pattern. She's gonna be like, fucking cryptic, pow pow pow, and that's how Kaladin and Shallan are gonna fucking discover each other. But I wonder if Szeth and Kaladin are going to interact, and Syl is going to interact with Szeth's spren. And potentially even like, not like get Szeth on their side by any means, but like potentially that's like a disabling thing for him. It maybe, I don't know. There's something very odd about the no spren in Shinovar thing. Very odd. I don't know. Hoping for a VOD. It's 3 a.m. here. Have a nice stream, Megaphone. Oh yeah. No. Always a VOD. Always a VOD. Yes, get some sleep, and you will be able to review at your leisure. Oh gosh, hopefully that crinkling isn't coming through. God, this amp, dude. Anyways, I will have a good stream. Thank you. But yeah, and I wrote down, there's a conflict between cryptics and honor spren. Syl is an honor spren. I also think it was funny how Yasna, Shallan was talking about how Pattern like instantly picks up on abstractions but has a hard time with more literal concepts, whereas Syl is the exact opposite, right? She is very distinctly like has easy time grasping like the hard concept or like the very literal concepts, but has a really tough time with abstractions. Very clear and obvious dichotomy there, but interesting, I think, and leads towards why these two types of spren would be having conflict in general. Also the Night Watcher's a spren. No real comment on that, but filing it away. Especially because the Night Watcher can, like, curse people and is ostensibly what has wiped the knowledge of Dalinar's wife from his mind, was the Night Watcher. And so if a spren can do that, like, I feel like we have not seen the end of, like, what Pattern can do, what like outside of distinct like bonded abilities, right? Because lashings are bonded abilities, soul casting bonded ability. Her memory stuff seems to be, or no, not her memory stuff. Her light stuff seems to be a bonded ability. But if the Night Watcher is a spren, and the Night Watcher can just do that, it is assumingly not bonded with anyone. It means that spren can gain enough power to have literal effect on people and places and things around them. And so I'm wondering if there's going to be a sort of, not power ramp necessarily, but like a sort of power up of Syl and potentially even of Pattern as the story goes on. So it's not just like, oh, they get better at their lashings, but also their spren become more powerful. Definitely could happen. Also, the fact, okay, so this is where I talked about the Almighty. The bit about the Almighty being a spren seems significant to me, especially given that the cognitive realm seems to be the location, and this is Mistborn spoiler, mute for the next, 5 seconds. The cognitive realm seems to be the location that preservation, ruin, and harmony exist. Okay, you're good. Mistborn spoiler free. So, if Shadesmar is the kingdom of the spren, and Shadesmar is the cognitive realm, it seems like the connection between spren and shards already sort of exists, especially with spren being the embodiments of these primal forces and thoughts, much like shards. But the spren building kingdoms is interesting. Yeah. Because I kind of already talked about it, especially given that spren can die, and it is very explicitly stated in Dalinar's visions of I am dead, Odium has killed me. We think that the Almighty is dead, which would, I think, lend a lot of credence to the Almighty being a spren rather than a shard, or potentially again that my original theory for the type of shard that the Almighty was that he was the shard of connection or something. And I was saying that I think the kind of alternate shard. Oh my god, that's so loud. I'm so sorry. 1 second. Oh my god, okay, I know that was so loud. I apologize. Or maybe it wasn't loud, maybe it was only loud on my end. I'd have to turn this down. So, odium is the general or widespread hatred or disgust directed towards someone as a result of their actions. Similar are disgust, abhorrence, repugnance, repulsion, loathing, detestation, hatred, hate. I still think in the same way that honor spren are also bond spren, whatever, I think that odium might also be separation. And I think that the Almighty is probably something that's not explicitly connection, but is connection adjacent. Maybe I don't know, cooperation or understanding or something like that. And So the idea that maybe the shard, like the connection shard, is kind of embodied within the spren, like the fact that the connection of people, their beliefs form these gestalt consciousnesses, their ideas form these literal embodiments, like the connection between these people, their interaction, their understanding of each other is what generates spren in the first place. And I think that I'm wondering if the shard itself is still around, but that the like it has like separated itself, right? Because again, I've always honed in on this fact that there are shard blades, shard plate. It's a very distinct word to use if you're Brandon Sanderson, and so I've always kind of honed in on that. And I'm wondering if the shard of Roshar kind of diluted itself, is just embodied within the connection of the inhabitants, and that is like, and then when they generated the Almighty, they generated this belief in this thing. It took on maybe the original personality of the shard, but then it could also be killed. But the shard itself wasn't shattered. I don't know. It's a big theory. It's a big theory, and I'm trying not to raise my voice too much so that I don't send any spoilers her way. All right. 4. I love the visions. I went on a little bit of a whole thing about it. I think the visions are such a cool plot device because they're specifically autonomous, it seems. Like they kind of live on their own. But they're all centered around a theme, which is the Knights Radiant, and Dalinar always inhabits someone of interest. Which, like, those two kind of factors mean that they can be as cryptic or as vague as you want if you are Brandon Sanderson, Like, they can be cryptic, they can be misinterpreted, but you know that they're always important. Like, I think that is such a cool plot device for it to be, like, explicit within Dalinar's knowledge of, like, I always inhabit someone that is important. And my visions are always related to the Knights Radiant. So if either of those two things are not true, that vision is, number one, under scrutiny from, like, a bunch of different angles. Like, is it from the same source as the other visions, or am I understanding it correctly? I think that is such a cool type of plot device of like like not beyond just, oh, these visions are important because they come from somebody important, right? And they're always trying to teach me something. I think that the very concept of I always inhabit an important person that is at the center of an important event is a very cool plot construction because it allows you to play with that and subvert that very thing later on. I've talked about whenever I DM, one of my like core tenets that I play around a lot is establishing very hard and fast rules, being really consistent in my rulings, specifically so that I can tactically subvert myself. So if I'm super duper consistent and then I suddenly appear to not be consistent all of a sudden, that is a very easy way to draw my players' attention. That is an incredibly easy way to kind of prick my players' ears up and say, like, wait a second, that's not how that works. And I think that the visions are exactly that, of like, we have determined the pattern, we have determined the consistency, so if we ever break that consistency or that pattern, that is like very worthy of scrutiny, which I don't know if that will happen later, but I have a feeling that so at some point there will be a vision that seems boring or that seems like it's not centered around the Knights Radiant, and Dalinar will give it incredible scrutiny, potentially even determining that it's not from the same source as the other ones. So I think the visions are super cool. I think they're really, really cool. Also, Dalinar narrates that the spren animated the stone of the lake bed. The description sounds a lot like things that were red herrings for the Voidbringers, as well as what is narrated in the prologue, the Thunderclast. I'm also pretty sure that the Herald said the name Thunderclast in the prologue, but what did the Radiance mean by an escort? I thought that was very weird. I didn't quite get that. Also, 10 Orders of Knights, 10 Forces of Nature, 10 Orders of Spren, I believe. But then, at the end of that vision, the Almighty said that the spren taught them. Which to me, I just had that whole fucking Almighty spren indication and rant. But by the Almighty saying the spren taught them, that indicates to me that he's not a spren, right? That would sound like him and Odium are shards, and that Odium probably sends the desolations. But maybe the thing is that the Almighty created the spren, so it's sort of like a Christian God aspect of like created in my image. Maybe the spren were created, like, people were created in his image, spren are created in his image, but he is not an explicit spren. I don't know. I super duper don't know. Also, I thought it was okay. I'm not sure if this was just flavorful language or not. It's very possible that it was. But the fact that that the person that was reading the glyphs on Dalinar's wall said that death almost looks like broken. For some reason that felt significant. That felt like foreshadowing. I don't know why. But that really that really stood out to me, of like, death almost looks like broken. The word for death almost looks like the word for broken. And then she goes on to complain about how glyphs are imprecise. I tried playing around with the phrasing a little bit of like 62 days death follows, 62 days broken follows. I thought about some connection to the shattered planes of like broken and death, and I couldn't quite get there, but just the fact that the glyphs are so similar, like, I think it goes back to my Odium separation theory. But I don't know. Also, at first I was like, oh, maybe Zeth warned Gavilar, but that super doesn't make any sense. Then I thought maybe the Parshendi warned Dalinar, then Spren. Later on, we discover that Dalinar, at least, thinks that his own hand wrote the message, which is weird, and I don't know if I buy it. We'll really have to see. I don't know if I fully buy that Dalinar himself wrote the message. I could see it being Spren, could see it being Parshendi somehow, but again, feels weird. Also, I thought something was interesting. To foresee the future is of the Voidbringers. So again, I thought maybe Parshendi, Parshman, like, before they become Voidbringers, maybe they're chill. But they're like starting to convert, so they're starting to see the future. Again, Dalinar thinks it was him, which I don't know. He said it as the POV character, which is supposed to, I don't want to say supposed to, but naturally gives things more weight. Like, whenever a POV character makes a statement, it gives it more weight. That's why the concept of like unreliable narrators is something that we talk about in terms of media literacy and like, reading historical accounts, is because if we don't talk about unreliable narrators and we don't consider if a narrator is unreliable or not, we automatically assume that the person speaking is probably correct. Like, they are probably speaking truth, they are probably speaking reality. So there's an aspect of Dalinar saying that he thinks his hand wrote the message, to us as an audience immediately like portrays that that's probably what happened, but we don't actually know that. So I'm still skeptical of it. I'm not quite sure that it was him. I also thought Zeth snuck into Warren Dalinar at first, but that was just wishful thinking. I know, because his honor wouldn't allow him. Like we were just rereading the prologue, and he talks about how he or Way of Kings, and he talks about how he specifically had to get rid of his white clothing because it would make him easier to identify. Like he wouldn't give Dalinar warning. His honor wouldn't allow him to. But I know, I agree. Wishful thinking. Wishful thinking on my part too. I don't know if he did write it. Maybe it's also from whatever source he's getting the visions from. Potentially, which that is a whole other can of worms of like where the fuck are the visions coming from. I don't feel like I have enough information to even postulate on where the visions are coming from. I don't feel like I can even begin to answer that question. Still, I don't know. Seeing and number 5, I wonder if Shen's change is because of bridge camaraderie or Voidbringer risings, because they were talking about how like they've seen some changes in Shen, the Parshman that's in Bridge 4, and I'm wondering if it is just bridge camaraderie or some other things, you know. I'm wondering if he's maybe, slowly transitioning into Voidbringer type shit. Or if he's a Parshendi spy. That is also something one of Navani's, because like this part had like journals from Navani Kholin. And at one point she says later on, like, oh, like, we never considered that there might be Parshendi spies within the camps. I'm wondering if Shen is just a Parshendi, like just straight up. It might not be that there's any change. It might be that he's just fucking acting. I don't know. We'll see. Is Navani or one of his sons usually in the rooms with him during the visions? Yes, Mustang. But they did the vision. He got Kaladin to escort Navani home, and he like sent out his sons on like a mission on like various tasks, and then he sat down in front of the fire and fell asleep. So totally separate from the vision, he fell asleep, and when he woke up, that is when the message was on the wall. And Kaladin had placed guards outside the door, but not in the room with him. And they say that the windows were too small to get into, which implies that a Parshendi couldn't have done it. It does maybe track, though, that a spren could have done it, because we know that Syl is strong enough to carry a leaf. Maybe a powerful spren would be strong enough to carry chalk. So it could have been a spren of some kind. Obviously not Syl. She would have said something. But it could be a spren that wrote the message, because they could easily get in through the window, I don't know. Unclear. It's seeing what to come isn't of honor. Maybe something of the cryptics are void-based spren on the side of the Voidbringers. Now that I write that, it would make some sense. So this is where I kind of started sniffing out maybe the void spren Voidbringer connection, which I still don't know about, but it's odd. Sadeas is okay. So we got like a little segment in chapter 5 from Sadeas's point of view, and like it was mostly weird to me because his goals sound oddly in line with Dalinar's, but it sounds like he mostly just wants to be High King. Like that's kind of it. Like he says that Dalinar always secretly wanted to be Gavilar, but then he talks like right after that, Sadeas talks about like conquering the kingdom. It sounds like, I don't know, to me it sounds like he's not just satisfied being High Prince. I don't know. His chapter was weird. I don't have any like easy way to describe how I feel or what I thought about it, other than that I thought it was kind of weird. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. It's also interesting later in that chapter that he says that Moash is the real friend, although the more I thought about it, the more it made sense to me of like Rock and Teft like really kind of treat him like the second fucking coming. They and so does Scar, obviously. And so it I think makes a degree of sense that the only one that ever pushes back on him, Moash, also the one closest to his age. I always forget that Moash is really young because of like how the voice actor portrays his voice. But also rereading it, he portrays it correctly. Like he portrays it how the book describes his voice, but the book also describes him being very young, like around Kaladin's age. So like all of that makes sense for him being like the real friend. It just kind of took me off guard, but I do think that it kind of quantifies how much Kaladin values someone treating him normally. And like how important that is to him as a character. Oh, what's up, Vednair? How you doing? How you doing? Welcome. Yeah, we're about I was about to say we're halfway through it, and by the book we are, by like what you would think. We're on chapter 5, but as the chapters went on, I had less and less notes. Like it really accelerated towards the ending, and I had less and less notes about what was actually happening. But I also have a gut feeling that the general arc for this book will be the other high princes slowly being swayed in by like the increased effectiveness of Dalinar's strategies. Like, I think they will slowly be like realize that they're making more money overall, and they will all start turning on Sadeas more and more and more. I don't know that that'll happen, obviously, but I could see that being one of the general arcs of this book. Also, there's a moment where Dalinar says, "There's no way onto that balcony," and then Kaladin sends out guards to the balcony. Oh my god, that is foreshadowing if I've ever goddamn heard it. We are going to have a fight scene at some point in this book that is in Elokar's top chamber, and Shallan, Shallan, Elokar, Dalinar, or Adolin, and Kaladin are all going to be in that room, and Szeth is going to be in there to kill Dalinar or kill Elokar or whatever, and he's going to come in through the balcony, just guaranteed. Szeth is coming in through that fucking balcony. But the other thing about that I wanted to bring back up, now that we know what the cryptids are, right? We know what, or cryptics. We know what the symbol heads are. Elokar can see them, right? That's like something that was like very brushed past in Way of Kings. Like none of the characters really acknowledge it, but Elokar can see the symbol heads, which would imply that he can probably soulcast, which is very interesting. Very, very interesting. Either that or the symbol heads appear to people that they're not necessarily like looking to bond with. I don't know. Or like they're purposefully fucking with him to like undermine like I was about to say Alethkar. I don't know. Very interesting. Like I'm keeping that in the forefront of my mind when thinking about Elokar in this book. The fact that we know that the cryptics, he can see them sometimes, at least. It's very interesting. I was hoping to be able to jump into chat by now, but it looks like it will be another half an hour at least. What do you mean, AKL? Oh, like because you haven't read the book yet, so you wanted to just like jump into like just chatting mode? Yeah, it'll probably be another half an hour. Yeah, well, maybe. It depends. It depends on how quickly we go through this. Where was the part about him being able to see them? it's in Way of Kings. It is when Elokar is talking to, I believe it's Dalinar and Sadeas, and he's talking about like basically his mental state unwinding, and they're talking about like assassins basically, and he's like, I see them, uncle, like I see them standing on my balcony. I see people in the mirror, heads of impossible geometry, blah 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 blah, blah. And he like lists like three more things, and neither Dalinar or, and I believe it's Sadeas is the other person there. Neither of them like really press him on it. They're both just like, oh no, fucking Elokar, so paranoid. But it's like a very specific wording. It's the exact wording that Shallan uses to describe the symbol heads. And so it's like, he can, and that also makes sense with like Yasna seeing like, you know, she sees Ivory as a shadow first that then forms into like the oil, and with Elokar talking about how he sees like someone on his balcony, but then they're not there when he goes and investigates, and no one can find any evidence. I think that everyone that he is seeing, all of these assassins, you know, in the shadows, are just cryptics, which it begs the question: are the cryptics purposefully fucking with him? Or because Spren can choose to appear to people or not? Or are they not able to appear to him? Like maybe he won't offer a truth, or I don't know. Elokar has had the Way of Kings read to him, right? I think he's had a segment read to him. Same with Sadeas. Sadeas and Elokar, I think, have both had parts of Way of Kings read to them. Yeah. It's a really small detail then there. It's really, really small. It's either in like part 4 or part 5. I wonder if it's in... Oh, where did my part 4 notes go? What the heck? All of my part 4 notes are gone. Oh my god, so are my part 5s. What the hell? I don't know what's going on. I was seeing if I could just if I could just find if I could find like a quick thing about it, but I can't find. I think it was in part 4, but I'm not sure because my part 4 notes are gone. That sucks. Anyways, I don't think Gaz can see them, but when Elokar was described as seeing faces behind him in dark areas, reminded me of Gaz seeing darkness just out of his one-eyed sight. Well, dude, where the fuck is Gaz? Like, are we just assuming at this point that Gaz is just got fucking offed by the Light Eyes? Cause like Gaz is just gone. He just disappeared, and we have no idea what happened to him. So like that is kind of my assumption that he just got offed by the Light Eyes, but there could be something more. You know, off-screen death and all that. Gaz could certainly come back. But it did remind me of I can totally see that Mustang, of how it could remind you of that. Just busy enough that I can listen periodically but not commit my full attention. I see, Kale. I feel you. Yeah, but anyways, going back to Words of Radiance. Oh, dude, I love the line in this of, if there's one person I can guarantee isn't working for Sadeas, it's that soldier. With Dalinar talking to Adolin about Kaladin. Love that line. Cause it's a like, Dalinar continually narrates why he doesn't know why he trusts Kaladin, and Kaladin does the same. Like, neither of them can really pinpoint why they trust each other. And that is fine. Like, again, from a kind of like out of fiction perspective, it's okay if they don't know why they trust each other, but they still have to explain their trust to their comrades. And I think both of them gave very not eloquent, but very understandable reasons. Like, Kaladin goes on this whole thing about how, like, oh, you know, if we trust him, he can get us to this place, and won't that be such a better life, blah, blah, blah. And, like, the Bridgemen buy it. But we know that that's not, like, his real reasoning. We know that he doesn't understand why he trusts Dalinar so much, and vice versa for Dalinar. Dalinar does not know why he trusts Kaladin so much, why he's giving him so much responsibility. But he has the very solid excuse of guaranteed not a spy for Sadeas. Like, and that's all you need. And I think that's a really cool again, not necessarily dichotomy, but I think it's thought through well. Of you have to have a reason to tell everyone else, even if you don't believe it. And they both have these reasons, even though they're not the actual reasons. Right? I think it's cool. I think it's really well done. And saying if anything happens to Dalinar that their freedom is in danger again, totally, Hans. Exactly. And again, we know from their internal monologues that that's not really why they trust each other, but it's a good enough explanation to tell other people, which I think is great. Also, yeah, in chapter 6, that's where we get the Navani quote that, like, there's Parshendi spies amongst the Parshmen. Makes complete sense. Oh my gosh, such a I don't want to say a good idea, but like makes a ton of sense. And it's a very classic, like, oh, why didn't I think of that? But clearly I didn't, which makes it even better. I really liked patterns. Chapter 6 is where we get some more stuff about pattern. Light makes shadow, truth makes lies, which I thought was really interesting. Like, it may be why cryptics don't like being called lie spren. They're actually concerned with truths. Like, they don't ask Shallan to lie to them. They don't ask her to give them a clever lie. They ask to give a big truth. It's just that lies reveal truths. And if I remember correctly, which we haven't gotten there in our read through, but there's a sequence where Shallan talks about how, or actually no, we passed it a while ago before I read this, how her letter to Yasna was a lie made out of truths. Sounds very reminiscent of what Pattern is talking about here, about how truths and lies are sort of inexorably entwined. I thought it was very cool. It is a very cool little sequence. Also, I fucking wrote it down. The latch not catching on Yasna's door. I was like, that's too specific. That's you don't just throw that shit in there casually. So I already was kind of looking. I was kind of squinting at this scene about like Yasna's door not catching. I was like, what's gonna happen? Yeah. Also, the second ability. It seems that Shallan has a specific Stormlight-related ability related to memory. She obviously has her perfect memory, but it seems, this is my guess, that she can construct scenes from her memory out of Stormlight, which is cool. And I wonder how that'll even be used. I wonder if Shallan will start getting the visions, right? Shallan will read Way of Kings. She'll start getting the visions, and then she will be able to construct the visions out of Stormlight so that other people can see and like take notes and collate things. That's a little mini prediction for you, a little mini guy for you. Return the oaths to us. Surge bindings are oaths of some kind, according to Yasna. It seems that lashings may be one of the oaths, soul casting another, Shallan's light stuff another. So it seems like there may be 10 oaths, from what I can tell. I don't know. But also fucking crazy chapter end. Minor Illusion wins again. Exactly, Hans. Fucking crazy. 7, I don't have any like crazy notes about. It's just, oh my god, what the fuck? Yasna's dead. Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. Get the fuck over it, Shallan. Get up. What are you doing? I am Pattern 2. I am also dissatisfied. I love Pattern, by the way. Also, I get it. Shalon's traumatized. Whatever. We're gonna learn about it more. But why the fuck are you not summoning your blade, dude? Like, I get the rationale, but you are going to die. Yasna is is either dead or dying. Summon your fucking blade. Get over it. I was very annoyed with Shalon, but I liked Pattern because Pattern is now a fucking audience surrogate to also be annoyed with her. But also I fucking love the little mini game of like soul casting being this like weird negotiation with with like the soul of an object or the consciousness of an object. I love that. I think it's really fun. I'm really down with it. I think they'll abstract it at some point, but I like there being this like odd negotiation that you have to do in Shadesmar to get an object to transform. I like it a lot. But and then 8, I just have lots of sad faces and is Yasna for real dead? I'm so sad. That's it. That's my entire note for part 8 or for chapter 8. Oh, Pattern is great. Please, Pillow, will you just get more comfy so I can sleep? Pillow, just beat it into submission. As someone who primarily enjoyed Shalon's chapter due to Yasna's presence and the whole keeping her stealing secret, I was worried I'd be bored because of Yasna's death. Luckily, I was very wrong. Fuck yeah, Ben there. That's good. I'm glad because I had the exact same fear, and I haven't like gotten past into part 2 yet, so I don't know. But it's good to hear that you weren't bored because I have the same fear. I primarily was interested in Shalon's chapters for Yasna. I will say, I'm looking forward to Pattern. So I'm hoping that like now, whereas Shalon used to be a surrogate to get me more Yasna, now Shalon will be a way for me to get more Pattern. Because I love me some Pattern. Gotta pull the Yasna attitude and just tell your pillow how it's gonna be. Exactly. Also, okay, chapter 9, fucking Syl mentioning a cryptic. A little bit contrived. It's happened once or twice in these books where it's like the moment that the audience learns about something, someone totally separate mentions it, and like it's only a little contrived because you know Syl's still regaining her memories, she's still figuring shit out. Like I understand, but it was just a little eye rolly to me, but it was fine. Syl also, okay, I wrote this down. It was Syl defied the Storm Father to come, like to come and be with Kaladin. She defied the Storm Father. Now that's a bit weird, ain't it? Right? And it makes me wonder if the Storm, like I think the Storm Father's a spren, probably. But also, they think that, like, according to like the Vorin religion, the Stormfather is one of the heralds. It's a Yezrean. But that doesn't seem to be accurate. It seems like the Stormfather is actually a spren, maybe a very powerful spren. And I'm wondering if the Stormfather is maybe the source of the visions. But if that's the case, then why would he not want Syl to go back? Like, it seems like it has something to do with humanity breaking the oath. So is he on the side of the Voidbringers, or are they just being petty? Like, I don't know. There's so many open questions about like who is on whose side. I think that's the thing that I really, I don't know, not like my main takeaway from this part, but it was like so much of like, man, I really don't know who's on whose side now. Like, it feels like it blurred the lines so much of like what even are the sides, who is on what side, why are they on said side. Also, very abrupt ending. Like the ending of chapter 9 is just like them down in the chasm, and he's just like, "Yep, let's train." And I'm like, "What? Okay." So that was a bit weird. I don't know why that was, but that's it. That's all my notes, and now I'm gonna check. I don't know because I was debating on are we gonna do part 1 and 2 next time. So I want to check the times really quick. While we're still kind of in and people are still kind of around. I don't want anyone to leave. So there was 7 hours for part 2. Oh God, I am sorry about that. It's my amp. Shit. Okay, the next 2 are okay. I think I know what I want to do. So part 2 is 7 hours, part 3 is 5 hours, part 4 is 7 hours, part 5 is 5 hours, part 6 is 16 hours. So my thought is let's do parts 2 and 3 for the next book club, then parts 4 and 5 for the book club after that, and then part 6. And part 6 we'll just have to grind. Or maybe we'll do like 3 weeks or something for part 6. But that's my current thought. I'm thinking, how do we feel about that? It's parts 2 and 3 is about 12 hours total. How do we feel about doing 2 and 3 for the next book club, which is going to be 2 Sundays from now? So it would be on the 17th. How do we feel about the 17th? Sounds great. Well, yeah, obviously it sounds great to you, Mustang. I don't know if everyone's like super ahead of me as well. I don't know if there's. God, the fucking buzzing! I can't wait to get the new amp. Maybe the Stormfather really is one of the 10 and not a spren, but he's in power in Spren City. Oh, could be Hans. Yeah, like maybe when he died, like maybe he's like a cognitive shadow. Definitely could be. Definitely could be, Hans. You're not wrong. I finished the book yesterday. I'm not ahead at all. Yeah. How are the interludes included? Any interludes before the part. So always end on the last chapter of the part. Don't never go beyond the part. So interludes. So we would do the interludes before part 2, interludes before part 3, but then not the interludes before part 4. But it sounds good to everyone. Maybe we'll call it. We'll just say that for now. Next book club on the 17th, parts 2 and 3, and then if anyone has an issue with that, put in the comments. Don't guarantee to delay it or anything or to change it, but I'll take it into account if anyone has like a big issue with that pace. But that's what we'll call it for now. Cool. That's it. Yeah, I finished it in January. Oh my god. Oh man, I am tired. I have so many more technical issues to figure out, but also I have the capacity to actually figure them out now, which is cool. Yeah, I think that's about it. And I don't want to, I don't want to draw on your time. I will also freely admit, kind of have to go to the bathroom. So potentially, if I don't think we'll get the internet issues figured out in this room, so I will not be able to stream. I have an idea for chats. See Discord. Oh, let's see. Wait, just while I'm on. General Kenobi. What? Post notifications? I don't see anything in Discord. Unless it's in Minecraft. No? I don't see anything in Discord. Am I going crazy? I might be going crazy, but I don't see it. Yeah, so hold on. Okay. But yeah, so tomorrow we will be, and also part of the thing is I want to just be able to, you can pop out chats and close the videos. Yeah, it'll, so for the actual like stream itself, I won't be able to stream Critical Role in here like at all. The download is just too bad. I'll it'll be pausing all the time, so I'll have to do it out there. But in terms of number one, I want to get a better off screen chat solution because this one is always, it's pretty good. It's not the best by any means. Like sometimes it has that thing where it like catches up really quick. But I want to see if I can get that off screen, and then just watch that because that would work. But yeah, I'm gonna. Oh, there we go. Content suggestions. So the chats can show you PC. You won't have to deal with 2 videos running, which is fine. Like, so on my normal, so when the internet is good, the videos don't matter. But so out there, the issue is the monitors, like the amount of like screen space I have. Yeah, I need to think about it more. But basically, for tomorrow, for basically until I think Wednesday, because I think the new router is coming from my parents on Wednesday. So for maybe for afternoon Critical Role, but probably for Critical Role tomorrow, and I don't know about Baldur's Gate on Tuesday. Probably it as well on Tuesday. I'll be out there. Which is, I know it's fine from your guys' perspective. It's just, yeah. And then but we're trying to move more in here eventually. But because we're out there and have a lack of monitor real estate, that's what I'm trying to solve, is the monitor real estate issue. But I think I can have them up on like maybe like a separate, like a laptop or something. I'll have to figure it out. So you can just have chats up and watch playback through OBS only. But yeah, internet is needed for dual streaming. Yeah, pretty much. That's kind of the struggle. But I'm gonna figure it out. It'll be fine. I'm not too worried about it. Anyways. Thank you very much. Tomorrow is the first one of the new time and schedule. So if you don't know, if you're just like kind of used to showing up at the time that you show up, check out the Discord. I'm also going to update my World Anvil with the new times. For me, it's 4 p.m. Central. Basically, whatever time half episode Wednesdays and Mondays used to start for you, it's an hour and a half earlier. So it used to start at 5:30 for me. Now it's going to start at 4. So be there, be square. I'm pumped. Great stream, book club. Thank you. I love book club. I love me some book club, and I am excited. We'll see how the pace goes. I could even potentially bump up the pace now that I have a little bit more, free time to like read and stuff. But we'll see. I don't want to outpace the people that don't have, this is their full time thing. So we'll see. But I'm psyched to read more. It was cool hanging out with you guys, and